more
Yeah.
Patricia.
Okay.
When we get to the next one. Okay, Ratisha. Let's put this here. This poem is called His All-Auspicious Form of Wonder. All glories unto Sri Nrsinga, Jai Jai Nrsingadev, and all glories to the form of wonder he most mercifully displayed. And all glories unto Sri Prahlad, who worships Sri Nrsinga's feet, and whose faith in his supreme protection never ever skips a beat. In the best of Vedic Granthas, Canto 7, Chapter 8, to the eldest of the Pandavas does Sri Narada relate about the all-auspicious advent of the all-auspicious form of the partly man and partly lion incarnation of the Lord. In Chapter 5, he told the king about the day that Sri Prahlad had instructed his misguided father on devotion unto God. This went over poorly, and Sri Narada described how Hiranyakashipu then sought his saintly boy's demise. Of the 1,000 wicked ways he tried, I'll cite a handful of examples. Like he tried to get some elephants to on his tender body trample. He tried to hurl him off a cliff, to feed him to the snakes he had him fed. But nothing harmed a saintly hair upon his faithful offspring's head. He tried to poison him, to burn him, cast upon him deadly spells. But his efforts were for naught, and into deep concern he fell. Thus he anxiously decided, as is told in Chapter 6, to send him back for further schooling, to his errant outlook fix. But as we know, at least we should, that quite the opposite became. And by recess, all the demon's children were all chanting Hari's names. Moreover, many good instructions to those demon's sons he gave, thus increasing his poor father's yearn to send him to an early grave. Therefore, picking up the story where Sri Narada explains how the fury of the demon king is just now totally inflamed, let us transfer to the palace of that exasperated king, whose rage is so incensed that all his limbs are trembling. There we'll find a hidden corner with a surreptitious view, and we'll see what lay in store for that Hiranyakashipu. I've got to tell you one part, a very, very important part. So this is an audience participation poem. Whenever you hear Hiranyakashipu, you all say, boo.
Does that mean we cheer when we hear Nrsimha? Does that mean we cheer when we hear Nrsimha?
You can if you like, sure. Okay, so here we'll try. There we'll find a hidden corner with a surreptitious view, and we'll see what lay in store for that Hiranyakashipu. In the moment, he is standing tall above his tender-hearted son, and by indignation and frustration, he's completely overcome. Moreover, as we said, his wrath has reached a fever pitch, and like a snake beneath a boot, he's now begun to hiss and twitch. By his boy, he's feeling so insulted, and although he's only 5, he's decided by his hand to send him to the afterlife. Before him stands his son Prahlad, the abode of utter calm, with an unpretentious nature, peaceful mood, and folded palms. According to his age, etc., no chastisement was he due, yet with piercing eyes and twisted tongue, then spoke Hiranyakashipu. O most impudent and unintelligent disruptor of our line, O most obstinate and foolish and the lowest of our kind. From my absolute authority, you have somehow gone astray. Thus surely to the land of Yama I will send you straight away. O my son Prahlad, you rascal, I am sure you're well aware that when I manifest my wrath, the 14 lokas say their prayers. All the planets start to tremble, and their chiefs are terrified. By whose power have you power to my power override? Not only mine, Prahlad responded, but the source of yours as well. In fact, the source of every power, with a surety I tell, is ultimately only that most powerful Hari. Without him in a being, never strength there'll ever be. Moving or non-moving, from Lord Brahma to the rest, nobody has any bala, lest by Bhagavan they're blessed. The power in our body and our senses and our mind comes only from Sri Vishnu, who controls the flow of time. He is the best amongst all conscious beings and the master of the modes. All the cosmos are created by his potency alone. Then his potency maintains them, and too sees to their destruction. His unimpeded will is always free from all obstruction. Dearest Father, just abandon all your altruistic traits, and in your heart, twixt friend and rival, please do not discriminate. Within your mind, towards every jiva, equanimity maintain. Save the reckless and misguided mind, none are foe within this plane. When every living soul is always seen with equal vision, then certainly one comes to the devotional position. In former times, a host of foolish persons like yourself failed to curb the 6 aggressors that usurp a body's wealth. Those fools were very arrogant and maintained the proud conception that alone I've conquered all existing in the 10 directions. But rather, if those 6 usurpers can that spirit soul defeat, while maintaining equal sight towards every jiva that they meet, for them within the 14 planets, not an enemy exists. For enemies are just a dream of one absorbed in ignorance. Glaring fiercely at his son, Hiranyakashipu replied,
Yay!
Really?
No, boo.
Glaring fiercely at his son, Hiranyakashipu replied,
We got so absorbed in the poem.
Pathetic. With your boasting, are you trying to my glories minimize? As if better than myself you think yourself at sense control. Save those who have a wish to die, there are none that speak so bold. Thus I can understand that since you've spoken as you've dared, that you wish to be delivered into Yamaraj's care. O hey Mandabhagya, you deprived of fortune's wealth, you believe in a supreme controller who is other than myself. You describe him as beyond creation and completely all-pervading. If this is so, then through this pillar is he also permeating? If he is truly present everywhere, then why not in this pillar? Because you're speaking so much nonsense, now your wretched head I'll sever. Let me see him give you all protection, if he really does exist. Then club in hand, he full of anger, struck the pillar with his fist.
Got a picture? Picture?
Sorry.
Not with a club, but with his fist.
But he struck it with his fist. He had his club in his hand, his fist, even though this one shows a sword. And then later on it said he put down his club and he picked up his sword. And then from deep within the column came a very fearful sound. And quickly throughout Devaloka did that rumbling resound. All the demigods thought possibly their planets had been shattered, while the firmament itself was shaken by the devastating racket. Such a terrifying sound had not been manifest before, and afraid became the demon kings as they were deafened by the roar. Hearing that unnerving sound, just then Hiranyakashipu,
Boo.
who is keen on murdering his child, contemplated what to do. He scanned the 10 directions, looking for the tumult's source, but find it he could not. And then quite suddenly, with force, from the very pillar he had struck, emerged a vision most amazing, giving credence to the truth that Sri Prahlad had been relating. In other words, to prove the statement of his Bhakta Sri Prahlad, that everywhere exists the presence of the one Almighty God, the Lord himself quite wonderfully from that pillar manifest, in a form that none had ever witnessed in the present or the past.
Yay!
Jaya Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Jaya Nishingadev. For your mercy and protection, we perpetually pray. And as the king of all the demons gazed upon Nishingadev, just exactly who had come before him, he was keen to ascertain. He was neither fully human, for he had a lion's head, yet neither was he fully lion, for he stood upon 2 legs. His visage was quite ferocious, and he had red-hot angry eyes. His mane was quite expansive, and his torso touched the sky. His rows of teeth were deadly, and his tongue was razor sharp, and his mouth looked like a yawning cavern as his massive jaws would part. His ears were perked and motionless, and his cave-like nostrils flared. His neck was short and thick, white as moon rays were his hairs. His chest was broad, his waist was thin, and he sported many arms. For Prahlad they harbingered protection, and for others, deadly harm. Fully taking in this sight, the demon came to the conclusion: Lord Vishnu's made this plan to carry out my execution. He thinks that all his mystic power makes him power to fight with me. But the uselessness of such attempting will that Vishnu quickly see. Thinking thusly, club in hand, and his mind on fighting bent, towards the Lord then charged that best of demons, just like an elephant. Yet, just as any insect, should they dive into the sun, would be lost within its luster and invisible become, in exactly the same manner, when Hiranyakashipu charged Nisringadev, he simply disappeared from view.
Whoa.
Thereafter, that great demon, being overcome with rage, and beating Lord Nisringadev, attempted to engage. However, as Garuda, an enormous snake, might snatch, the Lord, that wicked demon, very easily did catch. And again, as Sri Garuda, in a mood of playfulness, from his transcendental talons, just might let that serpent slip. In this way, Lord Nisringadev, in a mood of sportive play, gave Hiranyakashipu the chance to from him slip away. Seeing this, the demigods, who behind the clouds were hiding, found perturbation in their minds to very quickly be arising. And the evil demon leader quite mistakenly construed that with fear about his prowess was Nisringa now consumed. Thus, after just a little rest, he took up his shield and sword, and again with fearsome fury, he attacked the Supreme Lord. Yet, with piercing peals of laughter, Bhagavan Nisringadev seized Hiranyakashipu, who tried in vain to slip away. He struggled to release himself, quite enraged at being caught, and though his limbs all flailed about, without success the demon fought. Then the doorway of the royal palace did Nisringa occupy, and he placed the writhing demon on his broad and sturdy thighs. And though to pierce his skin the bolt of Indradev had failed, with ease the Lord impaled him with his transcendental nails. With ruby drops of blood his face and mane became adorned, and none could meet his molten glances, for so angrily they burned. A garland of the demon's innards round his neck he proudly slipped, and with his razor tongue his fearsome lips he gravely licked. From his lap he tossed the demon, after plucking out his heart, and with the killing of his armies did Nisringadev then start. Oh, I missed a picture. Sorry about that. There is killing. Sorry about that.
That's a famous picture.
That's a very famous picture. From his lap he tossed the demon, after plucking out his heart, and with the killing of his armies did Nisringadev then start. By the thousands all the minions of the demon king advanced, but at the nail tips of Nisringa they stood not the slightest chance. In an instant he dispatched them all, and seeing nary any foe, Bhagavan Nrsingadev then sat upon the demon's throne. Jaya Jaya Sri Nrsinga, Jaya Jaya Nrsingadev. May you give us all the same protection that you gave Prahlad that day. Yes, he sat upon that throne and gave his head a regal shake, the force of which tossed all the Devas' airships into space. The clouds as well were cast asunder by the hairs atop his head, and by his breathing in the ocean, massive tidal waves were spread. His roaring caused the elephants all around the world to cry, and the luminaries were diminished by the glare within his eye. From the pressure of his feet, the earth herself began to rock, and the hills and mountains sprang in all directions from the shock. Seeing this, manifesting full effulgence and a frightful countenance, and finding no contestant for his skill and valiance, the Lord just sat there fuming in the battle's aftermath, and none could come before him, fearful of his recent wrath. The sky became completely filled with countless flower aeroplanes, and the happiness the Devas felt, they didn't bother to constrain. Truly palpable relief did all their joyful faces show, and a host of kettle drums resounded from their heavenly abodes. On the Lord their wives all showered flowers, time and time again, till Sri Nard told Sri Yudhisthira it looked like flower petal rain. The Gandharvas and the Apsaras broke into festive song and dance, and yet none could find the courage to entreat Nrsinga's glance. Therefore, keeping just a little distance, all the best of demigods, with folded hands and humble moods, all paid their homage to the Lord. And their gratitude for his heroics they respectfully explained. However, none could pacify his lordship, and therefore angry he remained. First Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva tried, and yet their efforts simply failed. Even Lakshmi gave her best, however, all to no avail. Then Indra and a host of others, from the snakes of Nagalok to the Parishad of Sri Narayan, each in turn their tribute spoke. And when their efforts altogether yielded no result at all, they considered what to do, and then Prahlad they quickly called. And they suggested unto him that he Nrsingadev entreat, and fearlessly Prahlad approached and touched Nrsinga's lotus feet. And Nrsinga picked him up and placed him on his lotus lap, and with fatherly affection gave his head a little pat. And for forgiveness from his bhakta he affectionately prayed, for in his coming he considered there had been a long delay. And he urged Prahlad, a benediction for your faithfulness please take. To which he said, a business of my love I'll never make. And then he glorified his Lord, as only Shuddha Bhaktas can, and he offered many lofty prayers and touched his lotus feet again. And Sri Nrsinga, he was satisfied by the stutis that he spoke, and he manifested peacefulness while his head he gently stroked. Thus all glories to the Lord, who showed that most adbhuta of forms, and who kept his bhaktas every promise and delivered him from harm. And all glories to the saintly and surrendered Sri Prahlad, whose faith could see within a column all the majesty of God. Now in closing, my dear Lord, we at your feet our efforts lay, and we supplicate your graciousness as it's your appearance day. Jai Bhagavan Shingadev,